Good morning and welcome to this virtual first look at the psychology department at Charleston Southern University. I would like to welcome both those who are here live with us right now and those who will be watching the recording of this in the future. What I hope to do in the next 30 minutes is to give you a quick basic overview of the psychology department, the courses we offer, some of the opportunities including directed research and internships, and then at the end I'll be asking and answering questions. So at this time, I'm going to go to a voiceover on a PowerPoint slide. If you'll bear with me for just a second here, please. Okay, anyway, welcome to CSU. Thank you very much for considering attending university at our fine institution. Again, this is a first look presentation for the psychology department. We are a part of the Department of Behavioral Sciences, which includes psychology, sociology, and criminal justice. Now, currently we offer 2 degrees in psychology at CSU. One is your more traditional Bachelor's of Science in Psychology. The other one is an online Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology, and we've just now recently added that. Now, to earn your traditional degree in psychology, you will need 42 hours in the psychology core, 18 hours in most minors. We'll talk about minors later. 44 hours in the liberal arts core. Your liberal arts cores are things like English, math, history, Christian studies. We require 2 4-hour segments of 2 sciences each, and things like art and communication. And then you have 21 hours in general electives that you can take additional electives, or you can take more classes in your major and or your minor, and this requires about 125 hours to graduate. Now, with the psychology major, all of our students will take the following courses. General psychology, this is an introduction to the basic areas of psychology. There's 14 chapters in the book. Each chapter in of itself could be expanded into a 3 to 6 hour class. Psych 115, critical thinking and writing. What we will do here is we will teach you the fundamentals of scientific writing, including literature reviews, research reports, and how to use the APA style manual. Introduction to Psychopathology, Psych 275. This is going to be a study of the symptomology and treatment of your major behavioral disorders that are diagnosed in adulthood. Now, for those diagnosed in childhood, we have a separate class, Disorders in Childhood, that I'll talk about in a few moments. Then you have an Introduction to Behavioral Statistics, Psych 301. This is where we're going to introduce you to the analysis of data in the behavioral sciences. For those of you that are interested in statistics, may I recommend the book by Darrell Huff called How to Lie with Statistics. Then you have Research Methods 1, where you'll give students an opportunity to learn the principles and methods of design and analysis of experiments. And then Research Methods 2, you'll actually do a study. And then History of Systems of Psychology, this is a class I teach, and what we do is we look at psychology from a historical perspective of old methods to the present day. Then each psychology major will pick some courses from some groupings. The first one is the developmental grouping, child psychology. This is development of the human being from conception to adolescence. Adolescent psychology, we will look at the development of people from the adolescence stage until young adulthood. And then the last, the psychology of adulthood and aging, which is taught by our chair, Dr. Christina Sinisi, is a study of the physical, intellectual, and emotional development of young adults through the entire lifespan. The second grouping is your social or personality classes. This includes social psychology. This is one I teach. In social psychology, we look at how the individual impacts the group and how the group impacts the individual. Positive psychology, which by the way is a very new and exciting area in the realm of psychology, is the study of positive experiences, positive individual traits, and how we facilitate their development. What has happened in positive psychology is we've had a paradigm shift from looking at the weaknesses or what's wrong with a person to a more positive paradigm of looking at what is right with the person and how we can improve the person. Psychology of religious experience is a scientific study of religious behavior. During the development of the psychology of religion, we look at leading contributors and religious behaviors. Theories of personality. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the principles and theories regarding the development of a person's personality. The experimental or physiological grouping, again, you need one of these. Comparative animal psychology, this is taught by Dr. Alexis Green, our physiologist. Basically, what you look at here is the similarities and differences in sensory systems, learning, and memory of closely related and unrelated animals, including, of course, the human species. Physiological psychology is where you have an in-depth look at the brain, and in this class, you actually get to dissect a brain. Principles of learning talk about how we learn. We learn not only through doing, but we learn based on how the environment interacts with us and we interact with the environment. Sensation and perception is going to take a very close look at our sensory organs, how the sensory systems work, and how our perception works. For example, right now, each one of you is hearing the same sound and you're seeing the same PowerPoint overhead, but you may be perceiving it slightly different. You may be perceiving my voice is higher than another person would, and you may be perceiving the background of the PowerPoint slide as maybe a light cream or a white, depending on your eyes. And then cognitive psychology, which is a class I teach, we talk about the workings of the brain and cognitions. We talk about things like attention, memory. By the way, your memory is not as good as you might think it is. To show you an example of this, go to YouTube and type in 60 minutes eyewitness testimony, and you may never trust your memory again. Then you have your clinical area. Now here, you're going to select 2 of these 3-hour classes, issues and ethics in the helping professions. We talk about the ethical treatment of individuals and ethical research. An introduction to psychological testing. We'll look at things like testing for anxiety or depression. An introduction to group process. This is going to introduce the student to a variety of contemporary group counseling strategies and some of the professional issues involved in group counseling. Behavior disorders of childhood. Again, earlier we said 275 deals with your adult disorders. This class specifically looks at behavior disorders of childhood, such as ADHD and autism. An introduction to human services. This is structured to help someone be able to work in and run a service organization. Introduction to counseling, very brief overview of different counseling types and how counseling works. And then the last one is internship in psychology. I am incidentally the internship coordinator. What happens in an internship is you would actually go and work at a place outside of campus. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, and you'll gain valuable experience that will help you later with graduate school or getting a job. Now, there are some electives required. You have to have 6 hours of these. These can be any of the courses just mentioned, a second internship, directed research. Here you would actually do research with one of the faculty members. Sports psychology. This is where we look at focusing and applying psychological principles to the mental aspects of human performance. Health psychology. This helps introduce the basic concepts of the new field of health psychology that looks at the psychological, the biological, and the sociological, or the impact of society on a person's overall health. Industrial organizational psychology, we're going to look at how psychology is applied to business and industry. Forensic psychology, which is one of my classes, we're going to look at the psychological side of law enforcement and criminal justice. A forensic psychologist may do several interesting things, including consult on a child custody case or witness preparation. Now, we also have some special topics courses, and one of these is psychopathology and film. In other words, we look at film for examples of psychological disorders or certain psychological behavior. There's a movie with Jack Nicholson in it called As Good as It Gets, and this is one of the best examples I've ever seen of someone, and this is Jack Nicholson's character, who has OCD, or what we call obsessional compulsive behavior. Then we have some other classes on specific psychological disorders, alcohol and drug addiction. Remember, drug addiction can not only be an illegal substance, it can be an over-the-counter substance. Attachment theory and disorder, depression, eating disorders, and a separate one on substance abuse. Now, to earn the online Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology, it's very similar to the traditional degree, except that with the 42 hours, there are some specific classes. These classes include general psych, writing in psychology. You'll either take child, adolescent, or adulthood and aging, issues and ethics in the helping professions, social psychology, introduction to psychopathology, statistics, research methods 1, the psychology of religious experience, theories of personality, physiological psychology, principles of learning. You can do an internship and the history and systems. Now, earlier, I talked about something called a minor. These are normally about 18 or 21 hours. Now, a minor is basically a subfield that you go into. Sometimes this is something to augment your primary degree. Sometimes this is an area that you just have an interest in, or possibly this might have been your second choice for your major. Now, some of the more interesting ones, if you want to serve our country as an officer, we have aerospace studies, which is Air Force ROTC, and we have military science, which is Army ROTC. Some of the other minors we have is we have a minor in art. There's a branch of psychology that we call art therapy, where we use art to interact with our clients. Biology is a good minor. A degree in psychology with a minor in biology could prepare you for medical school. Business administration, certainly Christian leadership and Christian studies. Another very interesting one is criminal justice. Criminal justice is law enforcement, and it's a lot more than just police work. And so if you were going to take a free elective, I would highly recommend that you take Criminology 210. That's an introduction to criminal justice. We also have a new cybersecurity minor. Health promotion is certainly a interesting minor to have with a psychology degree. We're now having an emphasis on promoting good health rather than waiting to fix someone or help someone in poor health. Kinesiology, this has to do with things like physical therapy, is a good one. And then sociology, one of our sister areas in the behavioral sciences department, is the study of groups of people and how people act within groups. This is an excellent minor to have with a psychology degree in case you were considering going on to graduate school or possibly becoming a social worker or going on for a graduate degree for a master's of social work. Now, we have some clubs and honor societies. We have the CSU Psychology Club that meets every Friday at 12:30. Often we have guest speakers or we do service projects for the community. There's also Psi-Chi, the International Honor Society in Psychology, that you maybe wish to join if you're invited. Now, again, let's talk about internships. one of the problems that a person sometimes encounters when they leave high school or college is they apply for a job and someone says, well, I'd like to hire you, but you don't have any experience. Come back when you've had some experience. Well, these internships are a golden opportunity to get that experience. You'll actually be applying the psychology classes you've learned in a real life situation. We have some interesting ones here. We have Darkness to Light. This deals with the sad epidemic in this country of child abuse. You could work for the Department of Juvenile Justice or the Department of Social Services. We have the Early Autism Project, where you get a chance to work with individuals with symptomology of autism. We have the Low Countries Children's Center, which works with children with issues. We have the Palmetto Warrior Connection, which works with our veterans in the community, many of whom have returned back from theater with psychological problems such as PTSD or traumatic brain injury. And then we have PAR, which is People Against Rape. Now, we do have a list of internship sites, but while at CSU, if you find an internship site that's not on the list, feel free to contact us, and we can certainly look into that as a possible internship site. Now, we also have directed research. Now, directed research, you can sign up for 1, 2, or 3 credit hours under the supervision of one of our faculty members. If you're taking 473 for the 3 credit hours, you would actually complete an independent project under a faculty member supervision. Many of these wind up going to professional conferences. Now, let me say a special note here about the internships and the directed research. Let's say that you're competing against a graduate from USC or Clemson trying to get into a graduate school. If you can show the graduate school that you've had an internship and/or you've had directed research, in other words, you've had actual hands-on job experience, or you've had experience doing actual real psychological research, and the other applicant doesn't, chances are more likely than not that you may just have gotten the last slot to attend that graduate school. As I indicated before, many of our psychology students have presented at conferences. Here you see 2 of the most recent ones. Now, there are 2 conferences that our students present at. One is the Carolinas Undergraduate Psychology Conference, which usually takes place in North Carolina. And these conferences are important to attend even if you don't present, because this allows you to get a chance to meet other students, to talk to faculty at graduate schools across the area, and also to network. And also, it doesn't look bad on your resume if you've attended a conference. The other major conference is the Southeastern Psychological Association, or SEPA, meeting, and many of our students who have completed their Psych 303 project often present at this conference. And our Psychi here runs a special program helping people get into graduate schools and careers in psychology. And again, a conference such as SEPA would be a good place to network or meet potential future employers. Now, CSU is about learning, leading, and serving. We've talked a little bit about the learning. Certainly, we want you to be the leaders in psychology or other fields of study in the future. And then we're also about serving. Examples of volunteering work that our psychology students have done, as you see, is the Race for the Cure. Also, the Christmas Shoebox Project is a key one. We've also participated in the Walk to End Alzheimer's and the Walk for Water. Now, I'd like to talk very briefly about our faculty. Dr. Christina Sinisi is the chair of our psychology department. And then there are Doctors Alexis Green, myself, Dr. Jeffrey Gray, Miss Amanda Harmon, and Dr. Angela Weaver. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about the type of instructors. Notice I didn't say professors, I said instructors that you might encounter at another university or college. In a lot of cases, your early psychology, your early to mid psychology classes will not be taught by professors or PhDs. They will be taught by graduate students that barely understand the material that they're trying to teach you. Here at our CSU psychology department, everyone on the faculty has been teaching for many years, and many of us have outside experience. I myself, for example, worked with the cognitively challenged for several years in Mississippi, and I worked for the Department of Defense screening our soldiers going to and coming back from theater prior to joining the faculty at CSU. We've had some awards. We're the CSU Academic Club of the Year for 10 years. We were the Southeastern Regional Chapter of Psychi 3 times. Dr. Christina Sinisi, our department chair, was the Southeastern Chapter Advisor of the Year 2 times. And on 2 occasions, we won the Psychi National Chapter of the Year. Now, why major in psychology? What will psychology give me that will help me get a job once I get out into the world? Well, there's a couple of things. Good research and writing skills. Your employer may come up to you one day and says, okay, I need you to look into something for me and write up a paper or tell me what's going on here. You'll have those skills. We also encourage good problem-solving skills and creativity, the kind of skills that you'll need in our ever-changing world. We also talk about the ability to analyze, synthesize, and evaluate information, and these are all skills that prospective employers are all looking for. Now, some of the jobs, certainly you could go on to graduate school not only in psychology, but possibly as a social worker if you have a sociology minor. Psychology majors have gone on to be lawyers, therapists, counselors, clinicians. You would be surprised at how many jobs will hire a psychology major because of your critical thinking skills and your ability to do research and effectively write. Now, one interesting area to possibly consider is computer programming, now that we're starting to develop artificial intelligence that's going to be set up remarkably like we are. Now, so, feel free to visit our department webpage at Charleston Southern University's page. And last but not least, I will be here for a few moments to answer your questions, but if you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact our chair, Dr. Christina Sinisi, at the email below. That's csinisi@csunib.edu. If you forget the email address, simply go to the CSU website, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see where it says directory. Go to the directory, click on S, and Dr. Sinisi's contact information will be there. At this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the PowerPoint and open up the floor for questions.
Yes, sir. I am interested in mental health kind of overall, specifically Christian counseling.
Okay.
And I'm just curious, what are your thoughts? Do you have any wisdom, anything you might be willing to offer me as far as how would you guide me if I'm trying to figure out kind of what I'd like to be able to study if I could go into that field? Like, again, I'm a high school junior, thinking very broadly here, but yes.
Okay, well, certainly you could take a lot more of the courses under the counseling area, not just the 6 hours required. Also, I don't have it in front of me, but there's a bundle of courses that you could take. You could certainly have a minor in Christian studies or Christian worldview, and this would help prepare you for such a future vocation. Now, in order to become a licensed Christian counselor, you are going to have to attend a graduate school, and it just so happens that we have a new master's in counseling with a Christian foundation at our master's program.
Oh,
I did not know. Okay, wow, I didn't know that. That's great.
Yes, ma'am.
Good to know. Writing that down.
For those of you that are watching this video, if you have any questions, please call the Hunter Center and the operator can direct you to administration, financial aid, or recruiting?